This week, episode 268 of Stogie Geeks, we interview Gary Liotta from the Santiago Cigar Factory out in Rochester, New York. Fascinating product, fascinating story, fascinating family story. We're going to talk a little bit about business in cigars, one of my two favorite topics. And then we will be having Paul Azadorian in studio for some Stogies of the Week. Here we go.
This is a Security Weekly production. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where cigars burn slow, ashes fall fast, and cocktails flow steady. It's the Stogie Geek Show. Welcome, everyone, to the Stogie Geek Show. Joe and I are already silly.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Hozempa, a.k.a. Joe Hollywood, is here with me in studio.
I'm fired up.
Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, is a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo.
Welcome to Stogie Geeks, episode 268. I'm your host this week, Joe Hozempa. We have via Skype Gary Liotta. I knew it. Gary Liotta Jr. from Santiago Cigar Factory. How you doing?
How's everyone doing?
I'm doing good. We're doing good. Well, why don't you tell the before we get into who you are and what you do, why don't you tell them what I'm smoking? Because I just lit this up, and that's what's throwing me for a loop. I'm like, wow, this is a very strong cigar.
So that's one of our kind of specialty cigars that we do. It's called the Luna Eclipse. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a double wrapped Ecuador Maduro with a USA Connecticut, Pennsylvanian grown binder, and then Dominican, Nicaraguan, and Ecuadorian filler. Blended to be on the fuller side without any kind of harshness or bitterness on the smoke. Just nice thick smoke.
Yeah, I lit it up. I got a blast of white pepper, and then I had to introduce you in the show all at the same time. It literally, I was like, whoa, this is great. This is great. It's not necessarily a barber pole. I would say it's got like a little strip. Is there such word? A little barber pole strip?
It is actually two full wrappers. He just rolls it in a way where you just see the sliver, as opposed to the candy cane, which is two half wrappers, both predominantly displayed.
Right. Yeah, it's excellent smoke so far. With a little bit of show prep over last week with the goodies that you sent here to the studio. I was digging the candy cane as well. Excellent morning smoke. We'll get to that for sure. But Santiago Cigar Factory, family business, out in Rochester, New York, and you roll your blends currently on location there, correct?
We do about 80% here,
yep.
And then we do have now a small factory where during the off season we'll have them kind of rolling some stuff for us too, just to diversify the line. Obviously down there, no lounge, so it's all storage. We probably keep it just maybe even a dozen but filler leaves that I just don't have the warehouse space here in Rochester to keep. So we have them do it down there.
Right. So when you started, did you always start out with rolling services and lounge, or did you morph into the lounge? How did you get started?
We started with both. We started manufacturing and having a small lounge, and as the business grew, the lounge portion has grown with us.
So take us through the start of your business, how you got started. Obviously, now you're second generation because you run the business with your dad.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Well, Dad was, 32 years Eastman Kodak tool and die. One of the best tool and die guys in the Northeast. And back in 9 years ago, his department was bought by another company that wanted him to stay on and work. But they took all his tenure away, told him that you can have your pay rate, but we're taking your tenure. He was 32 years, didn't want to do it any longer. And he was a cigar smoker, had a love for cigars, and decided he wanted to get into this. And when Dad asked if I would come on and help him, since Dad never told me no, I couldn't tell him no either.
Mm.
And that's kind of how our company was born. Two guys fighting to get our name in a market that's pretty difficult to do out of Rochester.
Mm. Yeah, obviously you're from there, right? You didn't
Yep,
decide.
yes, sir.
It wasn't like you were down somewhere and said, "Oh, we're gonna pick Rochester." So you're from there. You wanted to bring the
Yeah.
culture and lifestyle to Rochester.
As much as our little shop could do, yeah.
Yep.
Me and Dad have a love for this city, with its faults and its downside. It's still home, and it was something where we thought that it would be able to be very unique to do what we do here in Rochester.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if you just tune into the show via YouTube or Facebook Live, we are speaking with Gary Liotta from Santiago Cigar Factory. You can visit them online at santiagocigarfactory.com, or we posted the link to our wiki page, wiki.stogiegeeks.com. So before we get into the blends and some of the services that you do, take us through when you started your business. I mean, Santiago, your last name's Liotta. So how did Santiago start?
The name came from the city which our rolling family came from. We use a family named the Bonillas, and we do. One of the things in a Caribbean business, having the Italian last name out front wasn't going to kind of give it the same cachet as going with a Dominican city or a Dominican name. So that we came up with Santiago purely just kind of for a marketing standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now,
and then,
go ahead.
And basically the way the company started in its inception and kind of still goes today is I handle pretty much all of the domestic out of the shop, out of the office portion of it, and Dad handles the international portion, the sourcing the tobacco, overseeing the factory. So it kind of gave us two clear sets of guidelines of what we were going to do, and it keeps two roosters out of the hen house for long, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good methodology, especially when it comes to family business. If you both focus on two different aspects, it gives you the opportunity to play your strengths. For sure.
Yeah.
So if the Stogie Geek listener goes to SantiagoCigarFactory.com, you got some. It's an interesting mix. And when I first contacted you to have you come on the Stogie Geek show, I'm interested in the aspect of it's not like you started a regular cigar shop, you want to be a tobacconist shop, you're on Main Street USA and you're going there. You really wanted to really embed the culture into the shop. And at least this is what I'm picking up from the website, right? Because you offer services like master rolling services, which I think that not enough shops do anymore. And then you also...
I'm sorry.
Nope, that's okay. We're both excited to talk about your business. I like it, right? It's going to be a great interview. It's going to be a great interview. And then you also have different cigars that are there. And when I look at the methodology of the business, right? So in other words, if the Stogie Geeks listener wanted to get his or her hands on some of these cigars, which, I want to get my hands on more of than what you sent me. So I'm intrigued with the story myself. It looks like from a business perspective, you have room to grow there as well.
Yes. Well, one of the things that we decided very early on was due to the tax implications in New York State, we couldn't fight for the lower end cigar market. You could go to Thompson's and get a bundle of cigars for $40. We can't do that manufacturing in Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
So we set out early on that we were going to roll the most premium cigars that you could find in the world, in our opinion. And that's when Dad really started taking off and going down to the Dominican and sourcing tobacco and testing out blends. And while he was doing that, I spent my time just kind of beating down the doors of anybody who wanted a hand-rolled premium cigar, just to try to get the name out there. And it didn't take us very long to hit on a couple of blends. And it just kind of snowballed from there. The more we got into offering boutique cigars, the more people here wanted boutique cigars. So it was one of those things where we got lucky and the business plan worked out from the get-go, which as a startup business doesn't always happen.
For sure. But I also think that your timing is correct, and go with me a little bit on this one, because there's only two of us. We can kind of elaborate more for the interview process. You know how when a consumer goes to a retail shop and then you have, obviously, anything hand-rolled tobacco is premium tobacco, right? So, okay.
Yeah.
So then you have ultra-premium tobacco, which is defined in some of the marketing by other shops. They say, okay, you know, this is premium, and then, you know, they'll do a drink special with something, say, well, ultra premium. And I look at them not only from a marketing perspective, but like, okay, who decides ultra premium? That being said, with your timing, you started in 2009, correct? My math's right? Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So 2009, right? And then you have what I call, on this show and previous to this show, I was on a AM radio station in the Providence Metro dealing with cigars. It was called the Cigar Club. So I've been doing either a podcast or radio methodology for the past 4 years on that. And so, but pre to that, you have like all the boutiques coming in, okay? And then you put yourself in the category of a boutique, sure, fine. But, I mean, wouldn't it be ultra boutique? Because you're really getting the tobacco from a smaller factory, and then you're rolling, like you said, 80% of it yourself. Most of it looks like it's exclusive to this Rochester address, to Santiago Cigar Factory. So it's like not only boutique, and you know, with the boutique revolution, people are all the consumers are chasing all the Nicaraguan cigars. Nicaraguan is putting a big dent in the Dominican pie, if you will, from a market share perspective. That's way out in the open. It's fact, right? And so but now it's like, to me, when I first viewed the site, SantiagoCigarFactory.com, I looked at it and I was like, man, this is like ultra boutique.
They would probably there'd be a better way to classify it, probably.
Please do.
Tobaccos. We're sourcing tobaccos that the big companies, they wouldn't really be able to take it and put it in a standard line of cigars. You know, we'll go buy a bale or two of certain tobaccos that we know after 25,000 cigars, that blend is either going to have to be altered, or we're going to have to try to source that tobacco again. And there's come times where we've run into some really magical leaves one year, and then when we get them the next year, they're not as, you know, the flavor and the smoke quality is not the same. So we'll just, you know, that becomes an old blend, and we'll move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're like, for instance, we sourced a tobacco. We actually, when we were rolling for the PGA tournament that they held in Rochester in 2013, they wanted us there all 7 days in the clubhouse rolling cigars, but the gig was you had to come up with something special. So we went and sourced this Indonesian tobacco, no, actually a Paraguayan leaf of tobacco called from the San Fernando Valley, and there was, I believe, 12 bales available for everybody's consumption, which Arturo Fuente had a lock on, but because of our connections down in the Dominican, we were able to source one of those bales, and after, you know, 25,000 cigars, the next year's harvest wasn't the same, so the cigars had to be amended accordingly.
Mm-hmm. So constantly you're rotating the blends that you offer then.
Yeah, you know, we'll have some certain kind of standards, like our House Connecticut blend's been the House Connecticut blend for 9 years. That one hasn't changed. But our House Maduro blend, for instance, has gone through probably 3 or 4 incarnations to get to the one we're at now.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of sampling and testing, which, you know, that's the fun part of the business when you manufacture it. You get to sample and test all the new tobacco.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is certainly a lot of that involved in what we do. You know, from year to year, harvest to harvest, crops to crops. stuff like that.
Now, who does that internally within your organization? Is that you or is that your dad?
The purchasing of the tobacco or the sampling and all that?
The sampling for the blends for the consumer.
Well, what we'll do is we'll get the samples of the tobacco in, and then my father, myself, and there's two other guys who were customers who are now employees who we trust their palate enough to include them in on it. But for the most part, every blend in there is going to go through me and Dad.
Yeah, it's awesome. This full cigar that I'm having, what's the name of it? It was the
Luna Eclipse.
Yeah, the Lunar Eclipse, right? It starts off, it's got a blast of pepper, and then it just mellows out, and it's so tasty, you know. And it just reminds me of, you know, when you get to the halfway point of a cigar and it gets good. Right after that, it's like right there, and I just lit it up, you know. So it's interesting how mellow it is. How old is this stuff? Like, how much has it aged from it being rolled to the samples that you sent us here?
The tobacco itself will sourced age. But that cigar that you're smoking, we had him roll you up a couple of fresh ones last week before I sent them out. So that cigar is probably still not even a week old.
Yeah. It's just mellow and it's tasty. You know, I'm really enjoying it. When I had the first one I had when you had shipped it was the candy canes. There, I put a nice bullet cut there, and I mean, I had it in the morning, and I was like, wow, I can't wait for this interview, because you're certainly onto something with that. Now, you don't distribute, obviously, in any stores, or is it just really hyper-regional?
We have a couple of cigar stores locally that carry us. And one of the things that we've branched out and done because of us being licensed and bonded to manufacture cigars is we've taken some of our blends that we would infuse, you know, different kinds of flavors. And I work with a bunch of different microbreweries and wineries in the area, and we infuse cigars with their either wine, beer, whiskey, what have you, and it becomes theirs. We custom band it, and it becomes theirs. We give them the humidor it sets on their bar top. So that between a couple of the cigar stores and the microbreweries and wineries, we also have a couple of country clubs we work with, but very much so regional as of right now. That's part of our goal for this year, is to kind of expand, get our e-commerce store up and running. So instead of having to call or email us, you can just go online like any place else and, you know, pick out your cigars, get them shipped to you. You know, but that's this year's focus.
Yep. So that's actually what was one of my next questions, is where can the Stogie Geeks listener get their hands on some of this stuff? Because it also you have if you had a big event coming up, you know. If you were either corporate event or family event, family reunion or something like that, you're able to put custom bands on the blend that the consumer would choose, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We do custom banding for just about, you know, for instance, when the Buffalo Bills had hired us to come and roll at Andre Reed's induction ceremony, his Hall of Fame induction ceremony, we made him up a custom 83 band to go on all the cigars that were going on out that day. Just something to add a little bit of a touch to what we were doing. For the PGA, we actually used Oak Hill. We got their logo and put that on the cigars because that was a country club that the tournament was at. But yeah, we do it for birthdays, wedding anniversaries, charity golf tournaments, anything you could think of where a person would want a customized band. Business owners who hand out some cigars to their guys who smoke cigars will come in and get a custom band with the blend they like. So yeah, that's something we do quite often. Yeah,
it's a good price. It's a good marketing point for you to offer that, because you know, if the occasion was truly special enough and they wanted to, and if they were a avid cigar smoker or really into the culture, it's just a win-win if they just, you know, utilize a company like yours, because they get the small batchness of the blend, and then they can customize the logo as well. And yeah, it just seems like a win-win. That's why I was so excited to get to interview you and you know, kind of find out a little bit more about the business. You know, for sure. It's
interesting.
It's what? Oh.
It's interesting in what we do, business model wise, because you wouldn't be able to get the small town feel from. For instance, my father is not the cigar company. My father.
Yep.
They're not going to make a custom band for Joe's 20th high school reunion,
right,
unless you're willing to drop a significant amount of money.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then some of the other companies, they have it's a boy, it's a girl, and some of the generic ones and stuff like that. I you know, they all have their purpose. You know, they all have their purpose, but it just like I said, when I found out about the company, I was very excited about the niche of it and the business niche. And then when I did some research, I'm like, wow. First thing that pops in my mind is point of purchase is they can grow that way. You know, you can build the demand for your product, grow that way. If I still owned a cigar shop in the Providence Metro, a company like yours would be something that I would want to highlight. You know, it's because I think it just has that. It just has a unique flavor. And then here's the kicker. You know, it's kind of like when we interview people here constantly on the Stogie Geeks, right? And you know, I find it a win-win when I get the cigars shipped to us here in the studio, and then we get to them, and we're like, "Whoa, wait a minute, these are good." You know, that's a plus. You know, and so you know, when I had the experience to sample what you had sent to us, I was like, wow. I was like, these are, you know, they're really good. We were just talking offline about the cap, the artwork on the cap. I mean, you know, there are some bigger blends out there, and when you know that, you know, sometimes the cap can be a little fledgling. You know, and the craft of the cigars, you can really pay attention to whoever rolled it was meticulous enough to care about whatever it is that they were doing, you know?
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things with our lounge is that if you come in Monday through Saturday, our rollers in the front making cigars. There was one of those things that for anybody local, you know, they'll come in, and when they see them rolling, the first thing they ask is, "Can I take a picture?" And I tell them, my roller is the most photographed person in Rochester. He doesn't mind at all.
Right, yeah.
And that's how our name's gotten out there, is guys have come in and seen this or seen us at an event and said, "Oh, wow, there's these guys in Rochester that are rolling cigars right in town. You should go down and check them out." And then when they get in, clip the cigars and light them. The construction's going to be top-notch. The flavor will be top-notch. The presentation's going to be top-notch, which is, you know, very important when you're angling as a boutique shop. You can't offer less than stellar construction or flavor and then expect that people would come back.
Right, absolutely. Now, from the lounge perspective, only Santiago cigars are available for the consumer, or do you have
Yes, sir.
See that I find now, I kind of assume that from the website, because I was talking to some of my colleagues who either follow me or ask me who the next guest is, and I'm like, oh, how I introduced you, I says, we got a fascinating business model coming up, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's a lounge like this, only they offer, I think, and now I know for a fact, only they offer their own blends, and they were like, well, that's dangerous, and I was like, well, not if it's good. Right? I mean, you know, right? I mean, you know, so it's always been that way too for all 9 years. Yeah. Right. Good for you.
Early on, there were times where guys would come in who didn't know us, and I would just put it to them: flip the cigar, light it. If you don't like it, I won't charge you for it. And I've yet to not have to charge somebody, because that really is my father and I, that's our goal and our passion, is to offer the best cigars that we can find, you know, that we can roll across the board. You come in and get my House Connecticut, it's going to be, if you're a mild guy, that or the candy cane will take care of you. It still give you a nice flavorful smoke, where in a lot of mild cigars, you get a mild smoke, but not a lot of flavor. We'll offer it to you with some flavor. And so early on, it was a little bit touch and go when you're selling only your own stuff, and guys come in, and much like any other kind of product, there's name recognition. So,
Sure.
Had to be willing to stand up behind the product and tell people, like, this is the best we can find for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, have you watched a couple episodes of Stogie Geeks? At least to you could say yes or no.
I have seen a couple.
You know, I'm a little, like, my reputation probably precedes me, where I'm a little harsh on some of the companies when it comes to either construction quality or just overall product, right? So,
yes.
I'm not kissing your ass, right? When I smoked this cigar and when I smoked the candy cane, I was getting aftertaste, almost like a popcorn butter, maybe caramel, not so much cocoa, but like a really tobacco, old school tobacco sweetness. Is that met in the profile for that? Because you know, sometimes, you know, when some of the boutiques come out, round one is always great, right? I mean, every shop flies out of them. They order their 100,000. They're phenomenal, and there's enough hype for them to order 250,000. Then they get to the 250,000 sticks, and it's garbage.
The magic's gone.
The magic's gone. Or the stick, if you were really into that stick, you realize that it's just not the same on your palate and whatnot. And so,
right,
you know, flavor profile. Take us through all the blends and what the flavor profile. So some of the Stogie Geeks listeners, if they're interested, they can go to SantiagoCigarFactory.com. Again, it's posted on wiki.stogiegeeks.com, and they'll be able to either pick up the phone and call you or flash you an email and say, hey, we heard about this over here on Stogie Geeks. This is what we can get, and away you can go via shipping. So, but take us through the blends, because the Corojo sticks out separate from me. It's good, but I think that this one here and your candy cane, I'm really getting that sweetness, that tobacco sweetness.
Well, depending on it'd be a little bit difficult, because I do probably 30 different blends.
Okay.
But with our mild blends, one of the things that's going to set it apart is we'll use in the filler blend for the Seco, the milder filler tobaccos that go in. We'll use a Piloto Cubano grown in the Dominican, and that kind of adds flavor without adding the body to it. Now we'll use the Piloto is kind of our standard Seco that we use. So it'll go into everything because it's so flavorful. But in our mild cigars, that's kind of where it's going to come from, the nice flavor. And then when you get into our medium to full-bodied selections, like the one you're smoking today or the Corojo I had sent you, filler binders are going to be, it's going to be very similar. We'll tweak the amount, the ratio in the filler blend to either keep it in the medium range or let it be full-bodied. But that uniqueness that you're probably tasting, especially in the Corojo and this one, would be that Pennsylvania grown binder. It's a broadleaf, but it almost has like a pipe tobacco-esque fragrance and aroma and flavor to it. And it's one of the, being a boutique shop, no, I haven't seen many other companies that are willing to put that as a binder leaf, because it's a really expensive leaf to get. But we found that flavor-wise, as a binder for our medium to full-bodied stuff, it just takes off, and it makes it unique to Santiago, because most places wouldn't be willing to put that kind of investment in a binder. Most places will use Dominican or a Honduran, and you'll get some good binder leaves out of them, but not consistently like the Pennsylvania's offered for us.
So you said you have 30 different blends? Yeah,
roughly any place between 30, 35 blends at any point in time.
Wow. Who does your web work? Because they need it's not 30 blends on your website.
No. That's
called inventory control, Joe. Next question, right? If I'm digging too deep in business, just let me know. You know.
We've got a really cool young guy named Josh who takes care of our website, but because me and Dad have been so busy, as you can see, it's pretty limited as to what we do. That's part of this year's growth projection is let's get that website up to snuff, get e-commerce up to snuff, because we are offering a lot more than what's on the web at current.
Right. Take us to a couple of the other blends. So what would mimic the profile?
Okay, so for instance, one of the cigars that we do it in a Connecticut or Maduro. But what will set it apart from the other cigars in the humidor is we use a leaf of Mata Fina grown in Brazil, which gives it its own unique flavor. It will add body, but done in a flavorful way. One of the things Dad and I don't like is you won't be able to come in and find a harsh blend or a bitter blend. Like if you're into that kind of smoke, that's kind of not what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're into getting the body of your cigar through a nice, thick, creamy smoke, that's what we'll do for you. So the Mata Fina does that for us in the Mata Fina blends. The Pennsylvania will do it in some of our other medium to full body blends. We have obviously we have a few of the San Fernandos left, which was that bale of tobacco we were talking about earlier, which that particular leaf gives your cigar almost like a floral finish. Reminiscent of the flavors reminiscent to the scent of like an older Italian lady's perfume, if that makes any sense.
Sure, yeah.
Like that very floral. So that cigar is kind of set out unique on its own, and I don't have anything else in the humidor that's going to get you into that range flavor-wise.
Yep. So when they walk into your humidor, take us to a visual of your shop. I always ask this whenever someone comes in the studio and they've been to a plantation or they've been to a factory. I always ask for a visual. I think that from the email and feedback I get from the Stogie Geeks listeners. By the way, you can go to joeh@stogiegeeks.com and you can flash me an email. If you have any questions for Gary, you can hop on the Facebook page and John, the producer, will see if we have any questions. John, if you can keep an eye on that there too for me. Yep. And then, give us a visual of you walk into your shop. I saw some pictures on Facebook. It looks narrow, right? It looks narrow, and then you got the humidor, and you got some chairs set off to the side. I saw the rolling table. So you walk in, someone's rolling a cigar. Or a couple people are rolling cigars. What do you have on the shelf for like inventory? I'm trying to get a visual of the shop.
When you walk into the humidor, the one side of the humidor is going to be all retail, with a single box open with the cigars in it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, each cigar in the box will be that blend. When you walk to the back end of the humidor, you'll see some of our inventory, the backup inventory stock that we have will be rolled and sitting in boxes in the back waiting to go into the retail boxes. And then that would be on the right side. On the left side are just bins filled with different tobaccos, fillers, binders, wrappers. So when you walk into that humidor, because Jorgito's rolling all day, you get this very aromatic, it would be reminiscent of walking into any kind of factory down in the Dominican or Nicaragua or Honduras, because it's got that lively tobacco smell at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which kind of makes it the most popular room in the city, especially in Rochester, because it's 70 degrees, 70% humidity. So you'll see guys during the winter spend a couple extra minutes in the humidor without actually looking at cigars for first couple minutes just to kind of warm up.
I've done that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then you have the lounge, and then I'm sure you have your regulars who go there and then have the lounge life. What are your hours that you open? I'm just are you open late night or?
No, not really. Our shop is right in downtown Rochester, but it's in more of like the college-age crowd bar district. And
Okay.
so initially when we were here, the first 3 months that we were open, I was here Thursday, Friday, Saturdays till 2:30 in the morning. And we noticed after 10 o'clock, the young guys weren't coming in to get cigars because they come down to this neighborhood for something totally different.
Yeah, girls.
So they don't even know you're here. Girls are drinking.
They want the girls in the booths. I mean,
Yes.
I left the cigar shop around 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then went and go for the tail. You know what I mean?
Yes. And you'll get some of that,
Yep.
but you won't get the guys who are in the midst of trying to get the tail to come in.
Right.
And so for us, we're usually out of here by, I'm going to say 9 to 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Monday through Saturday. The summer's a little different because we do an outdoor cafe, and then we'll get a bunch of guys who come in to do, some girl watching and stuff like that, because the sites out on East Avenue here are not bad for.
Now, since you only sell your stuff, this question has to come up. Where is the nearest tobacconist near you that sells other products?
There is a place
geographically, 10, 20 minutes. Is it 10 minutes or is it a walk?
There will be one place that's about a 5-minute walk, but he was grandfathered in back in 2003 when New York State went smoke free in the bars. Since he had his permit, he was still able to do both, but it's much more of a bar than a cigar lounge. The closest actual tobacconist is going to be at least a 10-minute ride from here.
Yep. So it's close enough. I mean, it's close enough to where, in economics, they call that absolute substitution. So in other words, a guy or gal wants to have a cigar on a Wednesday night, they got choices to go to. They can go to a conventional lounge, or they can put themselves in for a treat and have a unique experience and then go to yours, So that is what I was trying to pry at, It's like because it's obviously a competitive market, and when you only offer the Santiago brands and blends, it makes it ultra competitive for you too. But it looks like you guys are doing well out there, so that's good.
Yeah, when we first opened up, we were seen more as competition for everybody locally. And me and Dad, when we started the business, the lounge was secondary for the guys who were going to buy the cigars. We're much more, our work is done much more towards manufacturing and coming up with the good blends and doing that kind of stuff. The lounge is just kind of an amenity that we offered for guys who wanted to come in and smoke. And it's kind of now starting to take on a life of its own where, we've got a very established clientele that comes in, looking to sit down and hang with us for an hour or two watching baseball or football or listening to music. There's always something kind of cool going on in the shop.
Yeah. When I had my shop, we only had a little TV and we had a lot of music, Too much TV, it rots your brain, It drives me crazy. When I walk into a cigar shop and there's 4 or 5 TVs and everybody's just either texting on their phone and watching, it's like you guys even talk to each other, and don't watch the news because you don't talk politics, sex, or religion,
Not in the cigar shop.
I used to not just talk about politics and religion, but I had to include sex in there. People get all crazy.
In the current state of things, you got to watch it all now.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. That's awesome. I'm really happy that you only sell yours. You take a chance. You do that. Interesting business model, fascinating business model. Obviously, there's tons of room to grow, which I think is fascinating from a business perspective, especially if you were able to get that e-commerce up and running a little bit more automated, so your consumer can get a better idea as to really how big you are. Because if you're offering 30 blends, that's believe me, that's the size of some small shops down here that have, say, 60 or 80 facings.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
How's the culture of New York to smoking? So
very tobacco unfriendly.
What isn't, right?
Well, for us, one of the things that kind of early on another reason we decided to stay predominantly with our own cigars was the New York State has, just to the state, a 75% excise tax on cigar tobacco or cigars. So we would never be able to rumble in the lower price scale with any of the big shops that are rolling in either Pennsylvania or down in the Caribbean, because we're 75% right off the top. That's on top of the 53% that the feds are going to get from you.
Mm-hmm.
So before I could sell a cigar, I'm at about 125% tax on it.
Sure. Yeah. Did you look at relocating, or are you just like we're in it for the long haul? Or
we moved all of our importing down into a small town in Pennsylvania called Hawley.
Okay.
Because Pennsylvania to the state is 0%. Mm-hmm. So right off the bat, you're 75% down. And so anytime we distribute to any, just say you call me Gary, I want these candy canes. What we do is we roll the cigars once a month. I make a trip down to Pennsylvania to stock the shelves. Somebody gets some cigars out to you from there. Saves you the bite of 75% off the top. So it's one of those things. New York is very much not friendly to tobacconists or really any business, so to speak.
Yeah. Rhode Island,
it's not
Rhode Island and Boston in the same way. I was actually on a conference call with a bigger cigar company for a interview of Stogie Geeks in the future, and the vice president of distribution jumps on the phone, and he says, Joseph, he says, can you take me, why are there cigars shops who carry their cigars along the border of Rhode Island and Connecticut, and they only have 3 in Mass? And I said, well, in Mass, they have a 40% tax. They have a 40% tax of the retail value of the stick there. And in Rhode Island and Connecticut, that are bordering states, obviously, from there, it's currently at a 50-cent cap tax. So per stick, any stick over 62 cents in Rhode Island, so basically any premium tobacco stick. So any stick over 62 cents in the state of Rhode Island is taxed at 50 cents. Same thing with Connecticut. It's an individual, so anything is taxed at 50-cent cap, regardless of whether it's your Davidoff or your Ashton or your Drew Estate or something like that, Or even if it were one of yours, that came in to a shop, if you offered that service there, it would be capped at the 50 cents there. And he's like, well, that's interesting. He goes, is that going to change? I said, oh, yeah, it's going to change. It says Rhode Island has it on the docket to put it up to 80 cents this year. And if it gets voted on, now that's interestingly provocative, because if you take an $8 cigar, right, that means that Rhode Island and Mass are going to be taxing almost the same. It becomes out to like 80 cents, right? Because so with that being said, it would be a little bit more competitive for the Mass, but in general, specifically in the Boston metro, they gave cigar tobacconists who were there. In one case, they only gave them a 10-year license. And so that's how the liberals, so that's how the liberals got around. They said, oh, well, we only gave them, they only have 8 more years left, and they're out of here by law, and they got to get out. And that's what happened. And then, and then they did their business, they did their commerce for 10 years, and then they scooted, and they left the Boston metro, But if you go into the Boston metro, there's nothing, And then Massachusetts. And so he was like, oh, that's a good explanation. And he's like, how's the environment? I said, well, it's uncertain with the FDA, of course. It's all uncertain and stuff like that. But it's got to be regulated. I actually just went to a hearing last week on that, because that there was a movement. They want to tax other tobacco products as well, besides premium cigars, and for example, cigarettes or the vape. And in Rhode Island, I was actually shocked that the vape's been getting a free ride all this time. So they only pay sales tax, which is 7%, which is 7% in Rhode Island. So it's like interesting. and then I was like, well, that explains why, vape has become popular. The Division of Taxation approaches it from a health issue. Vape is technically supposed to wean themselves off of cigarettes, and we're going to stop this discussion here. But it's very unfriendly, And then New York, there's a couple of vendors that I deal up with in Queensbury, New York, which is just outside of Lake George, and it's just I can't believe the tax with that 75%. I mean, a $9 stick down here is $12 to $12.50, $12.80, $13. It's crazy.
Well, look, for us, anybody who lives on the southern tier of New York, they just go down to Pennsylvania for all their tobacco products.
Sure.
Because it's so much cheaper. And now I'm not sure about Rhode Island. My mom's full-blooded Mohawk Indian.
Okay.
So technically, if I moved out to a reservation, I could manufacture cigars there without that New York State tax. But then I couldn't technically sell them to anybody non-native without getting that tax.
Sure.
But what happens is everybody drives onto the Indian reservations, gets their cigars, gets their cigarettes, and at a much cheaper price. Now, I did notice that the one main reservation where I've gone to get cigars before must have gotten a memo because nothing in there was cheap anymore. Not that they're paying taxes on it, but they know what people are paying for them. So, 50 cents less than where you could get it off the reservation. But that's still enough for people who are going up there to get 4 cartons of cigarettes. If they know someone who smokes a cigar, it is less.
Yeah.
So they'll grab it there.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the online component comes in, and it's so important. And this is, I guess, one of my messages to you. Even though you've been running your business, online is going to be so important in the future for your business, and getting your message out there and getting your product into the hands of consumers who want them. Online is so key. I mean, 60% of cigar consumers here in the United States purchase tobacco products online. And that number, if we were to take a 10-year or a 5-year, that number's just going to go up and up. And the brick and mortar places are going to have to really fight to be competitive. And I'm not talking about if they go to like a big discount like a CI or JR. Because some of those prices I look at it, I'm like, how are they even playing in that?
I have no idea how somebody could make any money on selling a bundle of 25 cigars for $40, but somehow they're pulling it off.
Somehow, I mean, it is margin. I get it, but it's ultra low. But I think if you get that e-commerce site up and running, I think you yourself as a business owner are going to be pleasantly surprised with the consumer's reaction to like I said, there truly is a demand for the cigar smoker to chase rare to find opportunities. And when I found out about your business model, I was like, well, this is definitely a hidden gem for sure. You make me want to jump in the car and drive to Rochester.
Well, hopefully by this summer you won't have to. Although if you wanted to see the roller, you'd have to come up to town.
Yeah, I actually, when I did my first live broadcast, I actually had a cigar roller. There was one here in Rhode Island who used to roll for Cigar Masters up in Boston, that's the company that I talked to you about, the 10-year lease and whatnot. And then when he was looking for work, and we did a live broadcast with a cigar roller, and people thoroughly and enjoyed it. Even if they don't smoke, they were like fascinated by it. And this is something I'm assuming that happens in your shop day in and day out. The roller shows up every day and does his work.
Yeah, and there's people who will walk by the front window who are definitely not cigar smokers, who maybe won't come inside because they know it smells like cigar, but they'll sit outside for 4 or 5 minutes watching him just do his craft.
Right. He's on Instagram and Snapchat or whatever, all the latest
He's
gizmos.
on all of them.
That's awesome. That's awesome stuff. What are other than taxes, FDA, owning a business? What are some of the other challenges that you guys face with business?
Well, one of the things that we're finding, for instance, last year the event business was robust, but limited to as far as I can drive, which I've gone as far south as Quantico, Virginia. I've been up to Burlington, Vermont rolling, because if you ever go through the Magic Cat Brewery in Burlington, when you get to the register, there's a humidor with cigars there. We've actually infused those cigars for them. So I've been up there for some of their beer fests just to get the product out there. And I've gone as far as Akron, Ohio, going west. So, you're just limited as to how far you can actually travel with a roller and product.
Sure.
So that would be the biggest thing is, and thus the starting of the e-commerce site is, getting that name out there without me being behind a bench shouting it. That's been the main focus for the end of last year and for this year, is to kind of start, like you said, using the internet to do what it does, and that's get to billions of people instantly. Some guys who want a cigar don't want to have to call you and order it. They just want to go online, use their little mouse cursor, click a button, and they've got cigars coming.
Yeah. That I can see that. But those are all growing pains. You'll get there. I mean, it sounds like you're comfortable enough to, you got enough workflow. You certainly got enough workflow. You got enough events going on. I'm very intrigued at the banding services. Take us through that. You've done that since day one, offering.
Yes.
Yeah. I would figure that.
Yeah. That was just something, when you're, for instance, we do certain golf tournaments every year, and they want it to be special for the people who are there. So we tell them, just, we can put anything you want on a cigar band that makes it yours. The cigars obviously will be ours, but the product becomes yours. And it's just one of those things where some people like it to get their business name out. Some people like it because it has their name on it. But either way, we don't, it doesn't matter to us why you want the band on the cigar. It's that we want to get you what you're looking for in that band, so that the cigar presentation is where you want it to be. If you've got to give it to a client, or you're giving it to a couple of your workers for a Christmas gift, it's kind of cool if your XYZ company, you give them a cigar with your name on it. It makes it special for you, makes it special for them. So that was kind of our goal on that, was to be able to offer a service that not everyone could do, and do it in an affordable way. For us to do a band on your cigars for you, it's a one-time setup fee for the die that they'll use to make that band, and the price of cigars. And then after that, every subsequent order after that, it's just the price of cigars. You call us, tell us I need 25 cigars with my band, and it costs you 25 cigars, as opposed to having to spend $2,000 to have somebody make a custom cigar band, which is, very few people could afford that as an amenity for their business. So it was one of those things where we wanted to be, our number one goal in business has always been to be proactive. We want to, when I hear of a new tobacco down on the island, when there's rumors, they'll send me a pound of it. I'll give it to my rollers, and if my rollers can make it taste good, it'll stay. If my rollers can't make that leaf taste good, then I have full confidence in them that it's just not going to taste good. But being able to be proactive means that I don't have to wait for a different cigar company to develop a cigar, let it sit for a year and a half, and then let it hit the shores. When we get the tobacco, when we roll the cigars, if you're there the day we get it in, you're getting that tobacco before anybody else does, because I don't have time really to let cigars sit and marinate, because they just leave the shelves almost as soon as we roll them.
Yeah, awesome. Technical standpoint, when they roll them, right? Now, I've been to some rolling events by some of the big corporations, like maybe 8 years ago, Alec Bradley did a thing where they would send a roller and do that. I know Drew did one, etc. I was told that if you roll it, you have 24 hours to smoke it, or it has to sit for 31 days. What's the case with yours?
We usually will recommend that from the date of rolling to about a week out, you'll get a really intense, flavorful cigar. And then after that first week, going out for about another 3 weeks, they'll start to have some changes in them. Sometimes they're not. It's not something that's non-palatable, but sometimes it just will put a funky little
ammonia-esque type. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And if you give it another 3 weeks, it'll kind of mellow right out.
Yep. I remember when I was at a cigar shop, I used to work at about 17, 18 months ago. I used to work at a retail cigar shop and whatnot. And how I ended up getting the job was the owner had got the latest and greatest, the latest and greatest boutique. And when the new batch came in, I lit it up and I went to the owner privately and I said, these sticks ain't ready. And he's looking at me. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, these are less than a month old, guaranteed. I had an ammonia taste. He's like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, I'm telling you. And I told him about, 24 hours and it rolled. And he's like, I'm like, I'm telling you. I'm like, you need to let these rest or your clients are your client. And he pulled them. He pulled them right off. And, and it's one of those cigar, it fell off the map. They're nowhere to be found anymore.
Yeah.
It was a box press. I'm not giving the name, even though I'm gonna get tons of emails. What's the name? What's the name? What's the name? And then he's like, yo, you seem to know about this stuff. I said, well, sometimes they roll them and they play the shipping game. Oh, they're gonna be in a warehouse for 3 weeks, or they're gonna be, but they literally probably went factory to the shop because they was just in such hot demand. So I was wondering how your workaround was. So you let them sit accordingly in your shop, and then you ship them, and then they're ready.
Yeah. Like for instance, the one you're smoking today, that you probably get another maybe 2 to 3 days on that cigar before you're going to want to let it sit for a little while. But what we find with the fresh cigars is you might not know what the different tobaccos are in that cigar, but you'll have 2 or 3 definite different flavors in that cigar that make it interesting, where if I let that sit for 2 months, it now takes on a more homogenized, singular flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, star power. Who have you rolled for who has enjoyed your blends?
Okay, so there would be...
Let's do it. Besides me, right?
Besides you, all of the Buffalo Bills Hall of Famers have had the cigars and enjoyed them. They put 200,000 people through the PGA that enjoyed them, plus some of the golfers. I've got a couple of friends in Nashville who tour nationally with Randy Hauser, who are cigar guys, and we're kind of, when they want a boutique cigar, they call me and I ship them to wherever they're in St. Louis or they're in Wyoming, where we'll ship them wherever they go. We had former Mayor Giuliani in the shop a couple years ago. Enjoyed the cigars. I forget how many he took to go with them. He liked them so much.
Yeah, he's a good. Yeah.
And trying to think. Over the course of 9 years, I know I'm forgetting guys, and if they hear this, they're going to be angry because
you knew I was going to ask the question, right? You knew I was going to ask it.
I know. I guess, one that would be a little bit different and was an interesting, just because I met him, was John Randall, the Hall of Fame D tackle from Minnesota. Met him at Andre Reed's Hall of Fame. He liked it. He was an asylum smoker, but he really liked the cigar. But he looked like if you put a helmet and shoulder pads on him, he'd get to a quarterback.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So, like I said, I wish you guys much success. Tell your dad I said hi. I will respond. He flashed me an email last week. I'll get to him later on this week on something different. But I just tell him I was asking for him, and when he feels better, have him come back on the show for sure. We'll have to reset up something.
Well, and if you guys want to do another in-house live rolling, I certainly Rhode Island's within my scope of travel where I could bring me and the roller out for a sit down, maybe get Dad out there for a sit down interview if that's something you guys be interested in down the road.
Yeah, one of the things I would like to do to make it worth your while is I'd like to do an event and stick you in a shop for sure. I have a couple shop owners who watch the show. I try to get them to play it live in the shop instead of watching Fox News, but I guess whatever's on Fox News is way more important than what I have to say here on Stogie Geeks. I won't take that personally, I guess. Right?
You wouldn't find Fox News on in my shop. So.
I'm like, turn that stuff off, please. I go to the shop.
Not a baseball game.
Yeah, I watch the baseball. If there's a sporting event, sure. It was Saturday afternoon. I actually turned on Gunsmoke, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "This is way better than Fox News. We're gonna watch this."
Yeah,
And it was funny because people started leaving the other TV that had and everybody was coming on to our section, and they were talking about, I haven't seen an episode like that. They were sitting down and watching a full episode. Right, and I'm like, listen, this is now you're talking about. Now they're talking about when they used to watch it with their uncle or father or grandfather, and I'm like, see, isn't it? This is what you should do. You put on like me TV, you get the and that's it.
Yeah,
it's crazy, but yeah. So what I would like to do is coordinate an event. All right, and then I'll put it. We could put it in a cigar shop. We can film it here on Stogie Geeks. Then maybe afterwards, go to the cigar shop so you'd be able to do an intro to some of the guys we're doing an event or something like that. It'd be cool. It'd be very cool if we can put that together for sure.
Yeah, we'd definitely be interested. We have cigar rollers and we'll travel. So.
well, Rochester. That's what 11 hours car drive maybe.
I can be to Boston in about 6.5, 7.
All right, so 8 hours.
I'm not sure how far Warwick puts you past that, but
yeah, we're 45 minutes outside of Boston. No traffic.
Okay, yeah, it's probably 8 hours.
Yeah. All right, good. All right, that's good. Yeah, we should try to put that together for sure in the future. I'll talk to you offline on that. Future Santiago Cigars. What can we expect? 33 blends and online. All right, Joe, gotta go.
As the summer starts kicking off for us, we do the bulk of our blending and our new blends, spring and summer, to have them introduced by the fall and winter. So you could always be looking out. We'll probably put another 3 to 5 blends on the shelves, maybe pull one for now, let it sit for a couple years, and revisit it down the line. But you could certainly be keep the eyes out for some new blends because we'll have, like I said, 3 to 5 of them by the end of the summer.
Provocative question. Here we go. Do you have any blends that have Nicaraguan anything in them?
Almost all of our cigars will have at least a leaf of Nicaraguan filler in it.
Okay.
For the flavor. And as we get into the stronger blended cigars, we'll put more of it in there so it can get the body up there as well. But almost everything, with the exception of maybe the House Connecticut, will have some Nicaraguan. And I think that's even got a blade of it in there for flavor.
Because my rebuttal to that, if you said no, I was going to say you might want to do some research and look into that because Nicaraguan, as you know, and whatnot, is just putting a big dent into the market share. A lot of the consumers are really flocking to some of the Nicaraguan blends, and that,
actually,
that's what I think's been part of the boutique revolution's success is the Nicaraguan blends. And then people say, well, I don't know about that. I don't know. I say, listen, you have a company like Romeo and Julieta who has been known for their cigars, or Avo who has been known for their cigars. And when they start dabbling with some of the Nicaraguan blends, when the classic facings are starting to pay attention to some of the methodology and some of the crop growth of the boutiques, it means that they're onto something for sure.
In our humidor, I only do one Puro. Everything else will be a blend, but we do actually 2 Nicaraguan puros because there's just a demand for the Nicaraguans.
Yeah.
So we developed them very much my father-esque.
Awesome.
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 Flavor, body-wise.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Thanks for having us.
I'll talk to you offline. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it,
All
brother.
right. Yep. When we come back, we have the Sticks of the Week here on Stogie Geeks. We'll take a quick break.